one of the things that people kind of know you for is the speed that you have when it comes to like covering songs. So for those who haven't watched you like cover songs live, what sort of tips would you give someone who's trying to learn a song, regardless of the complexity of the songs? It could be a simple song, it could be a hard song, because I've seen you like learn legit tough shit in like no time. Okay. So I'm sure there's some kind of, it's not just I guess a big portion of it has to do with skill and talent, but what sort of advice would you be able to share, or what sort of tips would you be able to share with someone who's trying to learn a song, whether it's gear or strategies or things like that?
So first of all, if you're not stoked on the song, you're not going to learn it. You're not going to learn it well. You're not going to be motivated, and you're not going to push beyond your limits that song might require you to push for. So you better fucking love that song. And that's, again, where I started. Like, when I was, at the first part, I was learning songs because they were told, like, learn this song. And it's like, okay, like, I don't really care, right? But when you start to learn stuff you really love, nothing is going to push you further than just that straight up mindset of like, I want to do this because I fucking love this song so damn much. And then when it comes to actually learning the parts, again, it depends what you're doing. If you're doing it with tabs, that's great. Tabs are accurate, some are inaccurate. It's a mix, but you'll get close enough, especially as like a somewhat beginner, or even if you've been playing for a little bit, guitarist, you'll get close enough to what the song is with tabs online. But yeah, just you have to get in that mindset of the guitarist, because guitarists are creatures of habit. Like, the thing I noticed the most is when I learn a song from a band, the next song I learn from them is like 100 times easier, because I've already kind of dissected that mindset of that guitarist, his patterns, what kind of scales he likes mainly messing around with, his specific rhythmic groove, his kind of feel a lot. It just makes the next one so much easier. So you got to always remember, like, all these notes, even though, again, they're maybe randomly written in terms of somebody just jamming around, they're still written a lot of times with patterns in mind, right? Because we're humans, unless it's literally like a fully programmed song that's like almost randomized, there's going to be patterns that you got to look out for that are going to be the iconic features of those songs. And if you are learning it by ear, those patterns are, of course, made up for a lot of time from music theory, from your scales, from your modes. And that's why I also suggest it's very important to learn that stuff, because then it's just easier to detect those patterns in that music and be like, oh, okay, he's in this key. Oh yeah, I know that fucking pattern. It's just the scale. He's just doing a shred that's going up and down the scale, which saves you so much time from listening to the song and being like, okay, here's the first note, here's the second note, here's the third note of this like 50 note shred. You're gonna, sometimes you do have to go through every note, but a lot of times, like, you just have to understand your scales and understand the kind of pattern he would go for that shred, understand the first note and then the last note. And you can kind of mimic it and be like, oh, wow, I got it in 5 seconds, instead of taking time to learn 50 individual notes. And is one note maybe off? Maybe, right? But likely, if it's a very simple pattern and it sounds like a simple pattern, you probably got all the notes and you can move on. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is really get in the mindset of the guitarist, understand the patterns and the kind of habits they're going with. And music theory essentially is a good foundation to help with improving a lot of that, but it's not like required, as you'd say, but I always recommend it. So yeah.
Okay, well, like, it looks like you're actually able to go on stage with Trivium any time now. Then
hey, if Matt hit me up, I'd be down in a second, man.
Oh, well, let's see what he says. Like, let's hope he sees this and you're like, yeah, hey, Nick, what's up? I heard you called.
I'm down, man. Let's do it. I'll do a whole set with the boys.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks. I think it's a very good tip that you shared. I mean, obviously, I think people usually only cover songs that they feel the connection with. And I think the point that I found really important that you pointed out was the fact that guitarists often have have their own patterns that they repeat, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So it does make a lot of sense, and I think that would be a very useful tip for anyone who's trying to learn a song, especially if they're like a hardcore fan of like a band. So I think it does make a lot of sense when you say that after you learn the first song, the other songs are gonna be a bit easier. So it makes all the world of sense. Okay, well, thanks so much for sharing that. And to conclude, I have to ask this question: what sort of advice, would you give out to anyone who's aspiring to either be a YouTube personality like yourself, or a musician, or just a content creator in general? What sort of advice?
If you don't love it with every bit of who you are, you're not gonna do it. Let me put it that way. You have to love this a weird amount, like an inhuman amount, to want to do all this shit, not make money for a long time, and still not make that much money after you really felt like like you've kind of secured yourself in that industry. And just try to do something that makes you stand out and that you love from your perspective. That's how a lot of content creators and people get started, is just they love something so much, and they are maybe looking online for something and they're like, oh, nobody's doing this. Why is this like such an easy idea to do, or it's so good, or like it makes sense, and like I think a lot of people would enjoy it. Go fucking do it then, man, and be dedicated and actually do it. I've even just through my YouTube career seeing other YouTubers who were much bigger than me, when I was at like 200 subs and they'd be at like 500 or whatever the fuck, there would be multiple of those things that would happen. And those people would be like trying to pop off, and they do like one video and then two, and then they just are gone. And it's like, okay. And then, oh, Nick goes past you because I just didn't stop, was kind of the only difference. I just kept fucking going. Whereas all these other people just flatline. They just stopped doing it. Or they weren't consistent enough, or they stopped caring, or I don't know. Obviously, life gets in the way, right? So just really, really fucking love it, and only do it because you love it, because this ain't a get-rich-quick path. Fuck no. There's obviously cases where, you can get insanely lucky and you can get fame overnight. But that does not happen, it does not happen often whatsoever. Most people who get up there, they grind and they grind and they fucking grind because they just love it, and they don't get anything for it other than the satisfaction of doing something they love. And you gotta be consistent. That's it. If you're not consistent, people are gonna forget your name like that. You're done. It's over. If you upload a video and it's gone, or you upload a bunch of video, you get traction, and then you just stop for like 2 weeks, no one fucking cares anymore, unless you're like some big name already. When you're still building, nobody's gonna fucking care, and then your channel dies out, and you're gonna lose the love for it and everything like that. So be consistent, go for it, and really, really only do it if you love it, because you will not have a fucking social life if you actually do the grind as hard as a lot of people do it. So yeah.
All right, that's a very useful piece of advice, and I think that would be very useful for a lot of people who are trying to who have just started out, or are already at a certain level and want to push themselves to the next level. So thank you so much for sharing that. And with that, I would like to conclude our chat today. And I just wanted to thank you. I just want to thank you again for taking the time out. I